That would
Very
be an
small.
awesome pod. You and LeBron.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm serious.
Or Howie and LeBron, probably, and me and Bronny. You know,
Diane
Diane
and
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 Savannah.
Maverick Carter.
Yep, exactly. All right, so Rye, is this the best time of the year in sports? I assume you say no. And what are the best times of the year in sports?
It used to be my best time. It would be my favorite time. Thursday, Friday, my favorite days. They used to be forever for the NCAA tournament. Try to find a way to not work. A lot of times I just wasn't working when I was younger, bartending.
That's a good way.
Yeah, right. Like it was.
What is the way? Because I was going to ask you this. Like for dudes out there, I got a little life advice for you later, which is a segment we do, and a little sprinkling of that. Like if a dude wants to figure out how to get out of work on Thursday and Friday, what's the best course of action? Because everybody's doing it.
Well, the best one, and I've said this repeatedly, is you tell people at work that your fiance called off the engagement. And, you can't be super locked in with everybody at work, but it's so awful and awkward. There's not going to be a lot of follow-ups, especially when they didn't know you were engaged in the first place. So they're like, wow, that guy's a pretty private dude. And you're like, she called it off. You tell them like on a Monday, hey, rough weekend, whatever. And then I got to, just a couple days to regroup. I mean, granted, you can't do it again the next year. Like that's the all timer if you have to get out. Right. Yeah. Or you're just like, you're super bad at picking them. We'll leave this guy alone. I think it's a great, like personal traumatic thing where lying about that is completely different lying about a dead relative, where you could get caught up. Like you could be like, oh, I'm going to my grandfather's lake, and be like, I thought he died last year around March Madness. And you're like, oh.
There's always a paper trail with real people.
Yeah, if she doesn't exist, then you don't have to worry about her calling you out. And since you never brought up that you were engaged in the first place, everyone at work's like, what a weirdo you are anyway. And we're just going to let him stew on his own and maybe some follow-ups. But at that point, the schedule lightens up for you TV-wise.
All right, so what is the best time of the year in sports?
I mean, my answers are stupid. My favorite thing's the NBA draft, and it's like the worst time of the year. The finals are over. Right.
Fucking terrible. When is the NBA draft even? I feel like it just end of June. Okay, I thought it just happened.
No, it's the worst. I mean, my answers suck. Like the best, I know that there's like
that's an awful answer, and you're so good at sports. But
Masters weekend, people are like, oh, baseball starts. But no one cares about it anymore. I care about baseball. I don't talk about it, but I'm not romantic about it. I mean, I used to drive down to Fenway. I go to opening day by myself and just sit in the bleachers. And I kept score like a fucking loser.
Like an old guy.
Yeah.
Well, so okay.
Man, Odom McDowell tracks the ball really well.
Yeah. Well, you can't see that on the scorecard though, which is why you got to couple that with the game film.
Yeah.
But like what are the things that you probably, if you talked about them on your pod and you would talk about them passionately, but your listenership is not going for it. You say you kind of stay off baseball. Like what's another thing that you're like, I wish people cared as much as me?
I threw on the Oilers-Bruins game the other night because I just love, I love that Edmonton.
I love some
group.
puck.
Yeah, Draisaitl, my dude. And obviously I'm friends with just a ton of pro athletes, specifically the skaters.
Mm-hmm.
And
they gravitate towards you.
Right. I don't know, though. That would be debated.
You were friends with all the Kings guys.
I'm friendly with them. More of the UVM guys. I'm friendly with the Kings guys. We're not like renting summer cottages together. I had it on, and I realized I had basketball on the other two TVs, and I hadn't stopped watching hockey. And I was like, you can't do this. Like, it's kind of the UFC. I don't have to talk about it that much. Randomly, I'll do it for the big fight, but I just enjoy it. It makes me feel like a fan, where the NFL for you, college for you, same thing, NBA for me. Like, I'm not watching it in any other way than what does this mean? Where's the topic and all this different stuff. So I think a lot of people will tell you like that. I love conference championship week in the NFL. I like it better than the division round. I don't know if you'd say conference championship in college football, because sometimes you get some awful matchups. There's no replacing a Saturday in the South for me, but that's just one weekend or one matchup or one event. So I think most people would say the Masters. I feel like the Masters is kind of the default weekend because you still have basketball going on, you have baseball starting up. But without football in the answer, I don't know that it's the right answer.
Kingston, you have an answer, I feel like. And isn't there a time of the year, and you guys all know this at home, where there's like 7 different sports going on at a high level?
Yeah, that's true, but the sports equinox. But I swear I'm not making it up that the NBA draft is my favorite day of the year as well.
You guys are fucking ridiculous. A lot of fun at parties. All right, so
did you ever see that Herb Street tweet? He like just destroyed the draft. Like
the NBA draft.
Yeah, go look it up. It's hilarious and I feel like it's okay to bring it up now because last time I interviewed him, I go, "Hey man, what's with the strays that day?" Like you just, it was just so violent. It was the worst day of the year, entitled young, and I'm like thinking, wait, your entire deal is that you're on the football side of this, where you watch these dudes the whole time, and then you get to see them live out their dream, walk across the stage, something you got to do. I mean, that's a real moment. That's a fucking, kid in his room looking at posters, actually getting to live that out. And when it was basketball, he killed it. And I was like, what were you doing? And I go, by the way, it was on our air. And when he did it, and I think he said something like, I'd rather watch a Reds game any day of the week.
He said, not just the NBA draft, the entire NBA, all caps, except, this is the oldest guy tweet ever, except to watch the Warriors and LeBron in the finals. He probably likes the way Steph Curry conducts himself. Strictly college hoops guy. So he's a college hoops guy.
Okay, but this isn't even the draft one. That's a different one I didn't even know about. And again, the only reason I'm bringing it up is that he and I talked about it, and he was so funny.
No. And I love Kurt. We saw him at Waste Management.
He's awesome. And he's so funny because he's like, man, I think he said like in the interview with him, he's like, man, I don't know what was going on that day.
He said Marlins Padres was a game he'd rather see, which is, it just seems so fucking arbitrary. I don't know if he's a fan of one of those two teams.
He isn't.
Okay, well, all right. So Rodgers was just on McAfee at time of tape. You didn't see it. A lot of love, appreciation, and gratitude for the Packers, and essentially came out and said, hey, when I went into the darkness, Rye, he said he was 90-10 retire. And when he was in the darkness, which, by the way, is a whole nother thing, like there's no light. It's not an exaggeration.
Not even a pin. I researched it after he talked about it. I didn't want to be dismissive. I wanted to understand it.
Yeah, dude. No, I don't know if I could do it.
I wouldn't want to. Not being able to read would suck.
There's no Chernow in the darkness retreat on Murder Mountain.
I'm done with Chernow. He's got nothing. I mean, he's coming out with a Mark Twain book, so I'm looking forward to that. But I've read the entire catalog.
No way. I thought you were saying like you found something out about him you didn't like.
No,
you're actually done with his catalog.
Yeah.
But when he went into the darkness, 90-10 retirement, he spent an entire day reflecting on, retirement, and then he spent an entire day reflecting on, like continuing to play. And when he came out of the darkness, the Packers had changed their tune from saying, take your time, to, hey, hurry the fuck up, man. We didn't know what was going on there. Can't text you, there's no service, the whole thing. Anyways, he was like, I got a lot of love and gratitude for him, but I'm moving on to the Jets. And all we're waiting on now is the compensation agreement that will come with this trade. So that's what's holding it up. And it's the Packers side holding it up. And, a lot of people have been hating on A-Rod, saying, hey, he's making things complicated when he's keeping it simple. It's a simple free agency process, dude.
It isn't though.
No. Okay, you're on it today. But no, I listen.
Because he's not a free agent one, so he's.
You know what I think about Rodgers? I don't hate Rodgers. I don't dislike Rodgers even. I just think there's funny shit, undeniably funny shit that goes on. Like, you got to admit it. I'm not being dismissive, but it's substandard, not substandard, because that would imply it's not good, right? It's not standard to retreat into a dark room for 4 days in the heat of free agency when you've been doing this thing every year. So I don't know. I'm excited about the Jets, man. I'm excited about Joe Douglas landing the big fish, and I think they got a chance to compete, man. I mean, listen, that team was so competent last year. Mike White was better.
Defense was awesome. That defense was filthy, man.
They were disgusting. They're so deep up front. Obviously, the young corners, both of them, are really good. But, like the offense was so inefficient. Like, look at when Mike White came in. Everybody went crazy about this guy, but it wasn't like they were scoring points. They never had a chance to realize their potential. So I'm excited about it. And then, like, you got a slot guy like Elijah Moore who couldn't see the field. Maybe Rodgers gets something out of him.
Look how good Wilson was with the quarterback situation. I mean, that guy looks like he's going to be a stud.
He's great, dude. And, I like Lazard. And we don't have to find out what Lazard looks like without Rodgers because he knew and he had the drop. He airdropped him something from the dark room. And so he that deal was in the works. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. Just as a side note before I ask you a basketball question or two.
Yeah, I don't have much more on it. I think it's the right move by the Jets. When you're, everybody's quarterback decision is based on like relationships, right? It's just like dating. Like if you dated a girl that cheated on you all the time, you might downgrade in the looks just for somebody you feel like you can trust a little bit more.
Right.
Right. Next time around.
Yeah.
You might go, she didn't really get me going all that much, but she's not going to sleep with my brother. So
exactly, dude, which is a skill.
Yeah. So I think when you're the Jets, you go, well, we've tried a bunch of different things here, and now we can bring in one of the greats because he really is that good. Maybe from a talent standpoint, I don't know who's ahead of him. I think when Mahomes is all said and done, we would talk arm talent and the decision and all that kind of stuff. It was a down year. It was a weird year. But I think from just another relationship analogy would be, the Packers have been on the other side of this, which is unbelievable that they end up with back-to-back quarterbacks that exits would be multiple seasons of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I do think he obviously likes all this stuff. So there becomes a point with me where I'm like, okay, is this about football or is it about the attention? I also think it's kind of funny too, like the people that are super defensive of all of this stuff, because at this point enough was enough. And, good for him. And I still think he has a lot of good football left in him. And I wouldn't let the drama get in the way of like the evaluation of who you think he is. But when I see it play out in media, it's kind of funny. Like the only people that defend him are the people that have access.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, and then some of the stuff
I think there's a lot of people defending him too, though, that are like, hey, I do think, hey, we're talking about two separate things. A lot of people are tired of Rodgers. Like they just don't want to hear him talk. That's not me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a player using their platform. Like I talked a fuck ton and I wasn't half the player Aaron Rodgers was or is. I don't want to use the Green Bay Packers language there. But I do think the dragging out the contract situation, the unrest, the professional stuff does get a little – I would say it gets old, but I have a job to do here, and it's something to talk about.
Yeah, I just think of it from the Packers standpoint. Like, okay, what do you want to do? I might want to do this. I might want to do that. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you're going to come back and play. And, I think all of you dudes, any guy I've ever known that's played in the NFL, like there's this really weird postseason mental exhaustion where almost all of you don't want to play again.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with you about it, and I'd be like, nah, man, you got one more year. And then I think you even flirted with it for a little bit. I know your brother did it too. And I think it's just such a demanding sport that all of you are exhausted by the time January, February comes around. But the problem is if you're the face of the franchise and you've done it for multiple seasons in a row, that's the part where I start to have a little less sympathy for your plight. And it's not even specific. It's not even specific to Rodgers. It's just
yes, yeah. All right, so Bronny James been in the news a lot. What if you were like his advisor, Ryen Russillo advising Bronny James? I think
he needs me. He's good.
No, but I mean, like, yeah, he's got LeBron. But like, say you wanted a podcaster take. What would you do? Would you go G League? Would you go play in college? Would you go play in the league? And what do you think about Bronny James, a player?
I haven't done enough work on him, okay, because it's a 24 class, and I'm not even close to being into my work for the 23 class.
Coward.
Well, I do it a little bit differently in that I don't have time to watch college and NBA, so then I kind of cram it all together before the draft. So I know I can tell you what I've heard. I just haven't seen him enough to sit here and tell you, okay, this is who he is as a player. I think early on there was a lot of hype for him for obvious reasons, and then I think there was a bit of a dip on the production, what he looked like on the court. I would say this year, looking at him compared to the other games that I've seen him play last year, I think he's a much better player. I think physically he looks better. I think he's quicker. Where I thought there was a time where I'm like, okay, is he really going to be quick enough at his size? Because it's not like he's coming in 6'7", 6'8", right? He's a lot shorter than his dad is. The dad part of it's impossible for him to escape, but the dad part of him can be a huge positive. As great as the G League opportunity is for guys that don't want to go that route, his games would be a huge deal on ESPN signing with a blue blood program. So I'd probably say, hey, do the college thing. I don't know if Nike gets involved because of the history with the father, where that's going to be a forever deal, where it's like, go to a Nike school. You don't have to worry about making every single last NIL dollar because it's a different dynamic for you financially. So I would still think that he would get a ton of attention. Now, the problem is if he steps in as a freshman, he doesn't crush it right away. When ESPN.com, a few weeks ago, had him going as the 10th pick in the 2024 draft, which I can tell you the reaction to that from around the league, from the teams that I talk to. And I don't talk to every team, but I heard from plenty of teams going like, what is going on? And I figured I'd have to be like, hey, I don't work at ESPN anymore. They were a little surprised. They felt like him being slotted 10th a year plus from the draft was very aggressive based on the player he is. I think the all conference stuff came out for the high school, and he wasn't even first team. He was second team, but he wasn't first team. So if you're going to be the 10th pick in the draft as a smaller player, like you should be dominant. And
I was Falcon Club Player of the Year. Senior year here locally, which was the county player of the year
in college, in basketball, right?
In high school football.
Oh, yeah, because I saw that basketball clip of you the other day. Got to tell you, I wasn't blown away.
I was pretty fucking good on vacation. We were in Anguilla, and me and Kyle were walking up on the basketball court, and this French kid, 12 years old, kind of tall, rangy, like a big wing kind of kid with a shell necklace, was like 1v1. Like he was up there alone, and he was so forward about it. I don't know if you ever get that, like when you walk onto a court and you're like, and I was like, I made some shit up. I was like, I'm too old or something stupid as fuck like that. 10 minutes later, I'm fucking crossing the kid up. Kyle played him, and then my competitive juices got going, and I just fucking schooled this kid in front of my whole family. It was awesome.
Yeah, same thing happened to me in Maui a couple weeks ago. 12-year-old came up to me and was like, do you want to play? I was like, really? And his dad was there. His dad was like stout, thick. Yeah. Like I could tell he didn't want to fuck with his dad. So I was like, yeah, I'll play it. And I got up 7-0. And I'm like, you're really going to do this? And then it was 10-1. And then I lost 12-10.
Oh, no.
Wow.
But I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't really know. It's not like I was driving and posting on him. I just kept putting up threes. And that Maui wind, you know how it starts blowing around sunset. Yeah. So it was weird, though, because then after I was annoyed, like later that night, I was back in my hotel room. I'm like, wait, why are you sort of off right now? And you're like, oh, because you lost to a 12-year-old.
Yeah, because of his stout dad.
Right. And then it's like, well, because do you think you lost? Like, I'm talking to myself going,
you didn't lose.
You didn't lose, but you lost. And then I think I saw the kid like taking a video or FaceTiming with me behind him, and he was like pointing at me in the phone. So I was like, Now his dad did tell me he was like a really highly ranked 12-year-old for the state that he's from, which it didn't really make me feel any better. But like
it was Hawaii.
Yeah. No. He was on vacation.
Well, I'm just making sure he wasn't local.
Yeah, easy Vermont, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love when people are like, I was all state in Vermont. And you're like,
Yeah, well, all right. So, where were you on the fucking Bronny thing?
My thing is that I would imagine he would get, if it's about exposure, and if there's a relationship with a Nike school, that would make a lot of sense. The problem is, if he's not crushing it right away as a perimeter player. Now, if he was a big who was massive and you saw the athleticism and there wasn't a ton of production, okay, that's fine. Like those guys are going to get more of the benefit of the doubt. But if he does, and I don't know if he will or won't. I haven't watched enough of him, okay?
Yeah.
But if he comes in and goes to like Duke, say, right? And with K not being there now, maybe it's not as likely. I think there were some rumors about that in the past. But again, just, dudes talking. If he doesn't come in and kind of light it up, I mean, for all the shit Austin Rivers takes as an NBA player, like the guy still produced.
Yeah, and he's a good player.
At a really high level at Duke. So if he went to the G League and doesn't crush it, no one's really going to see.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that are watching G League games, it's not a long list. So maybe that's the better play. If they feel like, hey, it's better, he's just going head first, we have a little bit more control because there's an NBA connection to it. He can kind of hide a little bit. I don't know. He would get more recognition in college, but if he doesn't produce immediately, again, as a smaller perimeter player, it's gonna be unfair for him, right? It's going to be unfair. So when ESPN.com puts him as the 10th pick and no one's ever watched him dribble a basketball before, and then they turn on whatever college game he's on, if he ends up going to college, and he doesn't light up right away, I mean, the standard for him is going to be almost impossible, which is unfair to him, but it's how it works.
It is how it works. I know what on a smaller scale, what Bronny is going through.
That would be an awesome pod, you and LeBron.
Yeah.
So I'm serious.
Or Howie and LeBron, probably, and me and Bronny.
Diane
and
Savannah. Maverick Carter.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so the Luka and Devin Booker beef, which seems legit, seemed like they don't like each other, had me thinking, do you have a favorite all-time NBA beef? And what do you think of this beef here?
Booker's not afraid to get into it with some guys. I mean, he was going at it with Jay Crowder last night. It was a little bit different because they were teammates there, and I think it was a little bit more, sort of like just two dudes messing with each other that like each other a lot. But Booker's not afraid, and I like that a lot about Booker. If I had to get one basket in a game and I get to pick whoever it is, I would pick Luka first to get me that basket. That's how special he is. He's also one of the most annoying players to watch when you watch a full game. And if you watch a full season, like, again, I'm not rooting against or for the Mavs. So if I'm a Mavs fan, it's like whatever. But he is nonstop bitching. And so if you're another player, especially like Booker, who has some status in the league and is really, really good. He's not Luka, but he's really good. That play at the end of the game, like Luka missed the bunny. He knocked over the defender because he's always bigger than everybody, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And Luka got mad, and then Booker was like, that's a charge anyway, even though they were going to win the game. And then Luka turns to him like, what the fuck, what's up? So Booker, I wish we had more of this stuff. Like, there's some Philly-Milwaukee stuff that happens here, that Nets-Sixer stuff that was happening when Ben Simmons was playing. Yeah. We don't have enough of this in the NBA. And it made it more fun when you knew, oh, wait, those two teams are playing against each other. Like, they've gone through some playoff battles and they hate each other. Like, was there a team that you knew that it was a little different when you played against them? I don't know if the Rams.
Seattle.
Was it?
Seattle, San Francisco.
What made it different?
The physicality of the two groups up front. Tom Cable, offensive line, really physical. Marshawn Lynch, and then San Francisco. And they had shit starters. So, and we always played them tough, which we were like an annoyance, In fact, the year they won the Super Bowl, I think we beat them once or twice. And on Monday Night Football, we held Marshawn to 15 yards. They still beat us 9-6. San Francisco, same way. Big physical group, some shit starters, Alex Boone, guys like that, Breno Giacomini in Seattle. So just playing.
What's a shit starter do? Give me an example. Over the course of 3 hours.
Never takes their hands off you. Breno Giacomini, the whistle blows, you're trying to finish free-handed. He's got vice grips on you, and he's driving you over the pile. Or, the guy's yanking at your face mask at the bottom of the pile. Or, throwing a little uppercut here or there. Or, just little dirty shit that over the course of a game is annoying. Well, it's really annoying when you play that team twice. And so I think, the best rivalries, obviously, are rivalries where the teams get to know each other really fucking well, because there's nothing worse interpersonally or in sports than when somebody's going to do something and they do it. And that's, I think, the familiarity of playing a rival.
Yeah, and that's what I think we used to have, where these playoff series were so, there was guys were just with teams longer. I'm not doing the old guy thing here.
But it's true.
It's just true. Like, when you had the same core guys on a team for 6 or 7 years and you face each other on the same side of the conference, going back to that Detroit Boston stuff, where Boston, they're coming for the belt, and Detroit, that stuff was personal. It was nasty. So you always knew everybody was running a little bit hotter during it. I mean, one of my favorites was Barkley and Shaq. It had been brewing. They're certainly not contemporaries. They're kind of different generations that overlap there a little bit. towards the end of Barkley and the start of Shaq. But like when Barkley was like, screw it, I guess I'll throw a punch because hopefully this gets broken up at some point. Like that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I want fights all the time, but there's just a different feeling in the air when you're at one of those games. And even, again, it was just a simple regular season game. And then everybody's trying to downplay the Ben Simmons return to Philadelphia. But I like that there was angst. There was an angst attachment to that game that I wish we had more of. And we don't have it a lot right now in the NBA.
Agreed. Piggybacking off of this, I'll give you a mailbag. This was from Gates Like Isaiah. He goes, and this is in the wake of Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce talking about Richard Jefferson. And he asks, is there any team that milks a single championship more than the Boston Celtics? And before you say the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to say I thought about that. Okay. But the Celtics have 1 million. Okay. And they won one, as contemporary, franchise. And, I think that differentiates us a little bit.
Yeah. You would need more time removed from it. And it's also not like 7 of those Eagles are going to end up like, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's entirely fair. I mean, Garnett and Pierce both did some media stuff.
Kelsey.
Yeah, but Kelsey's doing his own thing, So it's a little different where Kelsey's not on a panel once a week for a few seasons going, what do you think? What do you think? No, that part of it I think is a little fair. But I do think that 08 team is a good example of kind of the start of the modern NBA. Not that we didn't have big threes before in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but for 3 guys to end up together, and what I've always said about those 3 dudes is that they had enough failures individually that they were ready to be over it as a team, which is what you need in basketball. You need some guys to be over certain parts of their game to make all the pieces fit together. And they did it, and they did it in that first season. They probably should have another one in there. The 09 team was better, but now I sound like I'm doing it for them. So do they milk it?
I don't think they do, Rye. I think they're just outspoken guys. So you're going to hear them
platforms.
Talking.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. Like if you had the New York Rangers on from the 94 team, when you want to talk about like winning a title in a city, which also has a ton of history of winning, like Boston's had, especially the last 2 decades. But, you could also make the point like the Celtics for all the titles, it's the one since 86, which is weird in comparison to like the other dominant teams of more modern eras here.
Yeah. There was a point as a member of that team where I was like, and it's fairly recent. It's more recent than I'd like, where I was like, okay, I'm fucking over it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like,
that's impossible. It's the only one though. That's why it means so much.
I always want to hear about it, like interpersonally, like when I roll up to a tailgate or when I go back to the stadium or I meet an Eagles fan, but I'm just not into talking about it anymore.
You go to an Eagles concert.
Yeah, an Eagles concert too. Cowboy Reed loves the Eagles. So
does he? Where are the Eagles for you right now? Give me a seed. 5
they're
seed?
like no.
7?
If I'm doing the seeding, if I'm Ken Palm, they're like a 9.
Ken Palm in it, but I don't know.
They're like a 9, like in American. They're like a 5 in American rock band history, for me. But like internationally, like a 9. The Eagles are fine, dude. They're fine.
Sounds like you don't like them.
No, I do like the Eagles, but they're fine.
He shits on them sometimes.
I don't shit on the Eagles, please. Okay.
Hey, here's what I always ask myself whenever we're talking music, and I know we'll move on here quickly.
Yeah.
Is there ever a moment where I go, this is what I want to listen to? And if the answer is no, then that band or that performer isn't super high up on the list. Like, dude, I always
Hotel
felt like,
California, I'm into it. Whenever you want to play that fucking song, I'm into it. Go ahead.
Great songwriting. I get it. There's plenty of stuff. Like, I get Bruce Springsteen. I get it. Saw him once, Final Four. I think I was with Mike Tirico. We were doing our ESPN deal, big rollout. Somebody invites you to Bruce Springsteen. You watch it. And you're like, hey, I get it. This guy's fucking awesome. What an incredible performer. All the energy to do it this many nights, to do it at this age. He's bringing it. Troubadour, all-time songwriter. Yeah. I've never once been home, let's say, after a few CLs at 2:30, unlocking the door going, I'm throwing on the Boss. I'm throwing on the Eagles. I'm throwing on a little Billy Joel.
You've never said, like, Darkness on the Edge of Town now? Like, Rod, this is shocking, dude.
That I've never come home late at a night out? Because that's the move. It's right to the music. You're shocked that I've never once put on Bruce Springsteen?
You never put on Hungry Heart? You know, you got a hungry heart.
And look, when Born in the USA came out on tape cassette, you want to know who's carrying over bricks from the pallet to the bricklayers at 9 years old? Yeah, you want to tell me Born in the USA wasn't getting flipped over and over and over all day when that came out?
What was the percentage of bricklayers who knew the song was ironic?
0.
Yeah, I don't know that you know the song's ironic, to be honest. Okay. I got some life advice.
You're more political than I am. You always have.
I got some life advice for you, which is a segment we do here. All right, so this
guy does one good, the bad, and the ugly by mistake, and then it's fucking.
But it is fun to like ask you advice, and I get why that segment is so legendary. So Rye, I got a son named Waylon who you're friends with.
Love him.
And he's really turning the corner when it comes to sports fandom. Like, he is into professional and collegiate sports. He asked me to watch reruns of football games, the whole thing. He's an Eagles fan, right? He has no choice, I don't think. But he has a side team that's starting to worry me, that could usurp the Eagles. And I'm looking at some of the free agency moves that this team has made, and they're all in. And I kind of worry that this time period could align perfectly with his budding sports fandom. And it's not a team that I care for currently, because I may or may not have been kind of in the weeds with some of these people online. It is the Miami Dolphins. He loves the team colors. He loves the state of Florida, and he knows nothing about the players. What the fuck do I do? Because his mom has gone as far as to promise to take him to a Dolphins game so he can see his Aunt Coco, who lives in fucking Miami. And I feel like this is damn near like
Coco
betrayal. Yeah. Well, it's like betrayal is what it is. Like,
yeah, you got to get in front of this. You got to get in front of this. You can't have.
Okay,
I mean, look, the 2-team thing, it's allowable up until a certain age. You know, I really do. I think, like, once you're an adult and you're like, oh, I like the Cowboys, and then my AFC team is
right.
What? And you're like, oh, what, Duke and the Lakers? But you can't be getting any gear because he's going to fall in love with that look.
He has gear.
He does.
Fucking his babysitter got him Dolphins sweatpants. He has a fucking Dolphins T-shirt he wears around the house. Like,
here's my advice: you sit Waylon down and you go, hey, you know how there's 32 teams, and he's going to go, yeah. He'd be like, you know, there's only 31 picks this year. He's going to go, what happened, Dad?
Exactly.
Like, they tampered with Tom Brady. The story has not gotten nearly enough attention. They don't do business the way business should be done professionally, and they lost picks because of it. And you
kids
don't want to be
associated
with that. No,
kids don't like cheating.
Getting the technical weeds of what it did and what happened, what didn't happen, and then he'll be convinced. No problem.
Waylon has the moral compass of like the Dalai Lama dude. He's incredible. So that should probably get him right off the bat, but I also have a couple other strategies here. Number one, get him to a Jags game stat. Like week 1, get him down to a Jags game, have Dougie P meet the players. I'll brief him on the situation, get him on the field, meet the Jaguar mascot. Maybe he rappels down from the top of the stadium that day. The other one is Dolphins rape.
The animal.
Yep.
They're an aggressive species.
Yeah, dude, they're bad animals, man.
You've been anti-dolphin for a long time.
Yep, exactly. Okay, here's the mailbag, and then I'll get you out of here. This is a question that was spurred from a Dan Orlovsky take, which I think sometimes Dan's trolling, like the food takes, and now the towel take.
It's actually, at least it's better though than when it's like, what is something that happened to you that you were younger that you now have used, and it's like you just opened your Twitter account and you're hoping to get it, and then like,
no, I like the way Dan uses his Twitter. I think he does a good job. You know,
I like the towel question, so go ahead and ask it.
Okay, 30 days is how long Dan Orlovsky, 30 times or so. That's if he showers once a day. 30 showers he gets out of one towel. Why is that disgusting, and how many times do you use your towel?
All right. As somebody who didn't know you washed him when he was in college,
Yeah.
Where you were like, oh, what are you doing? You're throwing your towel in, because you drop off your laundry and they would fold it for you and they charge you like 89 cents a pound or whatever it was. It would have been less than that.
Towels are heavy.
Yeah. And you're like, I don't know. I think one dude at one point, his towel was able to like stand on its own at some point. So I didn't even know, that you did that. I would say.
I didn't know you did mushrooms. All right, go ahead.
Like, hey, Mr. Towel, what's going on?
Towley. You get a little high.
I'd say I'm probably like 2 weeks, but I've got a couple towels going at the same time. So,
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm like, I know you're probably neurotic about it. Like when the first time you came over and stayed with me and I was throwing some dishes in the dishwasher, you like handed me the scrubber and you were like, make sure you wash this.
Yes, dude. Who doesn't want?
And I said, I know, because I put it in with every load, and I don't like being. Wait, you are challenging me on putting the scrubber in the washing machine every time I do a load? Of course I do.
You do 2 weeks with one towel, man. How am I supposed to know?
Because I think that me using my own towel for 2 weeks with another towel in that kind of 2 week rotation, because I have two hanging, so I'll be like, I'll use this one today, I'll use that one. I don't think that's egregious, but I also think it's entirely different when you're scrubbing food off of plates every single day.
I agree.
You wouldn't go 2 weeks without washing the scrubber.
We agree. Okay.
What's
another one.
I mean, are you once a week towel guy, or are you after 5 uses?
3 days.
3
twice
days
a week.
Excessive.
Yeah, well,
That's all right. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing it. I just think that's on the higher end of that spectrum.
It's not a good use of water, and it's a bad look for me.
Yeah, you're doing enough, though, in other areas when it comes to H2O. So.
Okay, well, so this is from Thomas Corey Woodcock, which I don't think that's a real name.
Hope it is.
He was asking, when am I going to get on the Rewatchables, and how's that going? The concept of the show, Rye, is just watching a movie and talking about it?
Yeah, but they have it really buttoned up. I'll admit, before I listened to it, I was like, this is a podcast? And it actually
it's probably awesome.
No, it's awesome because Bill's all over it. And then Chris Ryan and Fennessy, and then Van Lathan will get in there. And I'm leaving some people out or whatever. But like,
I like Van, dude. I like Van. I want to get Van on the show.
How have you not had Van on?
I got to get Van on the show. What should we talk about if I have Van on?
Doesn't matter. Just turn the machines on and go.
Okay.
He was talking to us about how he used to sell products at Best Buy in Baton Rouge. It's I could have done an hour on just Van from Best Buy because I was like, what was your approach? He was like, I was the slow play him. I'd be like, oh, Van. Be like, hey, you don't need to get that TV. I think you'd like it, but you don't need that. If you don't need it, you don't need it. You don't need the warranty. I'm not good. Here's what I want you to do. And then it was like on. You talk to Van about Best Buy. It's
okay. All right, good.
Because I had him on. I was like, I actually don't know that I want to talk about anything other than this. I think you and Van would like each other more than Van and I like each other.
Okay, I'm gonna get Van on.
Okay. I think because they have all these different categories. So they'll say like casting what ifs, like what could have happened, what didn't happen. They go back and say what doesn't hold up. This holds up, this one doesn't. There's all these different awards. It's a very, very perfectly executed way of watching a movie and then talking about it again. Because then if you haven't seen the movie for a while, you may want to watch it before, or you'll actually listen to the pod and be like, okay, now that I know all this stuff, I want to go back. You have, I think you and him doing Broken Arrow is the only
exactly
call. Right.
Firestorm, Broken Arrow would be great. I would love, like, what do you think is like the worst movie that you would enjoy doing, like a bad Rewatchables?
I hated Robin Williams' Toys so much.
Yeah,
I hated it, and I'll tell you why.
Too soon, dude.
No, it's not too soon.
Read the fucking room, man.
Read the room, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Next year, you can say you didn't like toys.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So, being from Martha's Vineyard, understanding the social dynamic of being a high school student on Martha's Vineyard, there was just a lot of problems. There were a lot of things that were in the way. A lot of stuff. And one of the ones was that the new movie would show up on a Friday night. The theater would be closed every night, and then on Friday you'd get it. But we'd get the new movie 3 months after it came out on
You got
the
like
mainland.
Montana movies. We used to, when we were in Montana in the summer,
right,
like Jurassic Park in 2001.
So you get that one, and it would run for like a few weeks until the other movie that's been out for 3 years. Again, we were only separated by 7 miles of water. I never quite understood how that couldn't have been, cleaned up a little bit. So Toys comes out, And everybody in high school is like, oh, hey, Robin Williams, like it's that Friday. And you're like, oh. And then the whole time I'm like, this thing sucks. I used to be a big I'm going to leave guy. Like I was making a statement. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. You leave movies early?
Yeah. I used to.
Me too.
They used
I
to
left
be my
Van
move.
Helsing so early. Van Helsing. Lady in the Water. Yeah.
So then I went to Germany my senior year of high school. And, it wasn't like we had individual entertainment systems back then. And then they're like, okay, Joe, your in-flight movie Toys starring Robin Williams. And I was like, fuck, I can't escape this thing back to back. So I would not do that one.
Okay. You got to see Simon Says, man. It's a Dennis Rodman movie.
I saw Double Team.
Well, I haven't seen Double Team. I've seen Double Team, but I haven't seen Double Team. But this movie's so bad, it's good. It like really is. It's an incredible movie. I don't hate it the way I hate Three Billboards. Like I hate
Three Billboards.
Oh, it's terrible.
You know what you could do is you could do your own version. I mean, everybody just do the Rehatables. And you watch the worst fucking movies. And
that's
then
great.
The pods are shorter because you're like, hey, I stopped watching it after 40 minutes.
Rehatables, perfect. Sorry, Bill. Okay, the next. Yeah. Also, on the teams that Milk won championship, how about America? 1945, man. It's been a while. I mean, no, you could say we won the Gulf War.
Dude, the early 90s Gulf War, that was a sweep.
I know, but it's kind of one of those like hey, Toronto won in 2019. I didn't
say it. I didn't say that.
No, I'm joking.
You say Katie was hurt for Iraq?
Yeah, Saddam popped his Achilles. And all the people
I'm waiting to see where you were going to get to the
all the people in Washington D.C. applauded. It was classless.
But he doesn't have any electricity. The Pentagon's just standing ovation.
We're the nicest fans in the world. All right, so
I love when Raptors fans be like, that's not what happened. And then the first video you click on and you're like,
that's exactly what happened.
When I forgot about it, well, I didn't forget about it, but like it made the rounds again. And there was a bunch of Raptors fans being like, this is all getting played out. And then it was like an anti-Canadian thing. And you're like, oh. And then you go and click on the video and it's way worse than you even remember it.
Oh, and there was a guy, they did like a 3-day tweet chain on a fan that's nice to people. A guy that had a car dealership and sits close to the court, and he's fucking nice to people.
Yeah,
that's great.
Our bad.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. That was one of the wildest mental gymnastics exercises to defend that. All right. What are your bucket list items, Ryan?
I'd like to get on a boat and sail. I don't know how to sail. I'm not going to get into sailing. I'm a powerboat guy. I don't imagine that I'll make that shift to sailing, but I'm interested in maybe sailing a schooner out of LA to Hawaii or something one way. Ooh. I don't want to have to go back with the crew. I don't really know what I'm doing. I am pretty handy. I'm not a complainer. I complain about career stuff a lot, but the rest of the stuff, like if I'm on a boat, I don't think you have to worry about me being a bad vibe on it. I think you would sign off on that. Like when close quarters, that kind of thing. Like if there's a job to do and we got to get to port safely, I'm not going to bring the crew down. If I'm going to notice guys who are down about it, I'm going to try to rally guys up, Yeah. I'm like wood putty, like where's the problem? Where's the hole? All right. Just rub a little in there with your thumb. So I would like to do something really fucking adventurous like that. I don't want to do any fucking base jumping. If I see another video where a guy's fucking chute gets tied up and it's like, this is what I had to do. And then it's like, God damn it. I'm not like looking for the adrenaline rush, but I want to do something like real, a lot of the Viking stuff you can't do today, but something where I would, I want to kind of challenge myself and get out there a little bit, but I don't have a sailboat.
Kilimanjaro. I want to do this shark diving in South Africa.
No cage though. This is what you got to do.
No, with a cage. With a cage. Fuck that.
South Africans are like whatever, dude. No.
Yeah,
cage.
they don't care. Nazar, Portugal. I want to go see those big ass waves.
Let's do that. Why don't we just do that?
Why don't we do it? Let's go. Why don't you and I do a joint content venture? I only say that because I'd be like, hey, Meg, I'm going to Portugal, but for work. I gotta go look.
That's
at
what we need to do. I think we need to do. I would do Iceland with you again. I'd go back.
I'd do Iceland. I want to see the Northern Lights, so that's on the bucket list. And I'm in Montana all the time, but I've just never seen them. I want to learn to play. I want to learn to play the guitar. I've always wanted to do that. I don't know. That's probably.
I'm a year into my John Fahey.
I love John Fahey.
Hold on.
Get your guitar.
I just learned the intro to this one.
Okay. This is like. Oh yeah.
No, not yet.
Yep.
Or this stuff.
Do 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 do. Dude, here's the thing.
Not there yet.
No, but here's the thing. I don't know if that's good or not. I want to get to where I know if that's good or not. I know it sounds good to me. I'm impressed.
No. It was a lot. I choked a little bit there in front of the live audience.
Did? No,
yeah,
okay.
I picked it up about, we're in month 11 now, and I watch these videos, and I fucking love John Fahey so much, so I know parts of 4 songs, one whole one, but saying I know it. Transitions get a little tough, but I'm telling you, it's fucking crazy, because the first time you look at it, you're like, who the fuck are you kidding? You're never going to figure this out. And then, I don't know, I just play the videos at like quarter speed, and I look where his fingers are, and then if it takes me a couple hours to know where the notes are, and I can't really read music, so that doesn't help.
Well, neither can I yet. Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.